It only came into force on Friday, but more than 400,000 people have already signed a petition to revoke the Online Safety Act, brought in to prevent children from accessing harmful content. Critics, including Nigel Farage this week, have questioned the impact the rules are going to have on freedom of speech.
The Reform leader has demanded an apology from the Technology Secretary, Peter Kyle, after he claimed Farage's opposition to online safety laws means he's on the side of predators like Jimmy Savile. Should we have a look?
There are people like Jimmy Savile who are trying to get access to children online that will be prevented from doing so by the Online Safety Act. Nigel Farage wants to overturn the very laws that are preventing that from happening. He is on the side of people like Jimmy Savile, and I'm not going to apologise for saying so.
Well, does the Online Safety Act do more harm than good in curbing free speech? Online child protection consultant Jonathan Taylor says the Act was initially designed to safeguard children, but now just doesn't do that. While political commentator Jovan Owusu-Neh-Paul says the internet has become the Wild West and the Act aims to protect young people online. Where should we go first? Why are you saying... I'm going to come to you first of all, Jonathan. Why do you think it's not working?
Yes, good morning. I'll start with a bit of a caveat. Anything that's designed or created to safeguard a child has to be for the better. Mm-hmm. When the Online Safety Bill was first discussed and then into the Online Safety Act, to the extent, if you look at Ofcom, they talk about online pornography and stopping children from viewing that. That isn't going to work. So the whole of the Online Safety Act was really stemmed around protecting children. But there's been no definitions. So what is online pornography? Where is it? I think too many people don't really understand or haven't looked into the methodology of online offenders and online predators, as well as what children are doing in the online world, whether that's social media, whether that's file-sharing systems, whether it's direct messaging. So the Online Safety Act was really centred around, according to Ofcom, around online pornography. Well, what is that? So we know what child sexual abuse material is. We call it CSAM. We know what that is. We don't want them seeing that. But what about these pornography sites? Well, we've now got this big talk about VPNs, and I was obviously over the last few days I've looked at it. It's not going to prevent any of this.
So just to understand, Jonathan, see, there's two arguments which says you shouldn't be controlling the internet. It will curb free speech, repeal the bill. That's kind of the argument Nigel Farage was making. There's an alternative argument which says it's really important to protect children, but this bill isn't doing it in the right way. It's not good enough. We may need some tougher controls. Is that the argument you're making?
100%. And
So you're not agreeing with Nigel Farage?
Well, to an extent I am, because he used the word repeal. Now, hopefully what he actually means by that is we'll have to look at it again, add to it, take things away, or actually put more or better legislation in place. Legislation can be created to curb things like recommended algorithms. It can be done to recommend or to stop things like monetarisation. These are the things, just those two things are what getting children into trouble, because the monetarisation of these self-generated images on things like Instagram, on Snapchat, on TikTok, and, of course, OnlyFans. So I think... do I disagree with Nigel Farage? Well, what does he mean by repeal? Does he mean keep something...
You say repeal and then put something else in which is tougher.
Yeah,
yes,
you mean reform. Fine. You're hoping he means reform, don't you? Yeah. Jovan, you know, anything's better than nothing. But this is flawed. And where do you see the flaw, and why do you still believe in it?
Well, the internet has been pretty much a Wild West since its inception. There has been very little effort on the part of government, big tech and social media companies to address some of the quite horrific things that can sometimes appear online. This is an initial first step. There are a lot of people now who are consuming a lot of the internet. I mean, people are spending up to 5 hours a day on the internet. I mean, for a generation like mine, that's up to 24 years of your life that you could be spending on the internet. So this has to be the start of...
So what's the argument, then, that it does more harm than good? Why do you not agree with that?
Well, I think this is about safeguarding. As I said, there are so many people now who will be online. You would never permit these things to happen in real life. It would be completely unacceptable if people were to see these things in real life. So why is that allowed in the Wild West of the internet. I think there has to be some accountability, some pressure on big tech, on social media companies who are allowing quite dangerous things that can be traumatising, that can be dangerous, and that can encourage quite problematic
you're
behaviour.
giving power to the British state to stop free speech by people like him. This is sort of this is a political agenda to stop free speech, and it pretends to be about protecting children. Actually, it's about stopping opinions the government doesn't like being broadcast on the internet.
Well, of course, Nigel Farage would say that. The internet as it stands today is something that works very well for him. It's feeding into a kind of right-wing populist narrative. He doesn't want any of the reforms to happen on the internet because he's able to galvanise a kind of politics that I think is becoming more and more toxic to democracy at a point. And so, of course, he wouldn't want reform, and this is about protecting people. I think we also have to ask the question, what would he want to say that is now not permissible within the law? And that's another kind of conversation we have to have. It doesn't prevent people from accessing or using the internet. This is just about regulating, ensuring that you say who you are. It's a bit like going down to the pub and you have an ID for when you're 18 to buy a pint. I don't see really any difference between that and this.
It's part of the problem, Jonathan, that the speed with which, you know, these companies, the internet, the Wild West you described, Jovan, evolves is so much faster than the heavy, slow motions of law that we cannot keep on top of it. And this law doesn't help that.
I totally agree. I mean, the bill was discussed, let's say, 3 years ago when it first started. And what has technology done in those 3 years?
Changed dramatically, I assume.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, through my research, you've actually got a situation now, if you look at the Online Safety Act and what I keep saying Ofcom because they're the ones that were driving this regarding protecting children rather than protecting everybody. It was about all based around children. And they look at age verification. You've actually now got a situation, you've got AI versus AI, because I know a lot of ethical hackers who are trying to bypass this age verification through facial recognition, and they're doing that through AI, and it's the AI that are checking the images.
Can I just ask you, because this has been a theme of our week, on Monday we were talking to police officers who broke into a criminal online network which was encrypted. But over the last few years, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger are all encrypted. Things happen outside the purview of the police and law enforcement operate. The head of the National Crime Agency said a couple of months ago there's been a dramatic fall in reporting of child sex abuse because it's all happening behind these encrypted barriers. I mean, that is a massive problem, isn't it?
Huge. And it was touched on, I don't know who by, but we talked about VPNs, the virtual...
There are ways of getting around the
private networks. Yeah, they're free. And we've seen a big increase in the demand for free ones as well as paid ones.
You can pretend you're in another part of the world.
Of course. So that means it completely then bypasses the Online Safety Act. And the big daddy of VPNs is the dark web.
So we need tougher powers to tackle encryption.
Absolutely huge. I mean, it was brought in to protect children, and it's not going to do that.
Doesn't feel like you want to get rid of this bill. That's all I'm saying.
We're just going to give a quick statement, if that's OK. A government spokesman said free speech is fundamental to our democracy. We've taken robust action to protect through the Online Safety Act. Safeguards for freedom of expression have been built in throughout the Act. And we did ask you whether the Online Safety Act will do more harm than good. 66% of you said yes. 34% of you said no. We don't know the reasons why they said yes or no, but thank you both very much indeed for that debate. I'm sure it will continue.